Welcome back to the deep dive. I hope you're ready to swim because today we are we are not just wading in the shallows.
Not at all.
We are diving into something that, well, it literally questions the nuts and bolts of you. I mean that in the most, mechanical sense possible.
It's a massive topic today. We're looking at the schematic.
The schematic is right. And I want to start with a question for you and for everyone listening. Have you ever felt like you're driving a car that you don't actually know how to operate?
Oh, absolutely.
Like you have the steering wheel, you know which pedal is gas and which is the brake, but you have like zero clue what's happening under the hood.
That is a very, very common feeling. I think we all feel that way. We live in these biological machines, but we rarely get the user manual.
Yeah.
We just sort of press buttons and hope for the best.
Exactly. Or worse, have you ever felt like the car has a mind of its own? Or maybe, and this is the scary part, that your mind is actually the thing messing up the engine.
Oh, that's the one.
Like you're the one pouring sugar in the gas tank without even realizing it.
That is a great analogy, a perfect analogy. And it brings us, perfectly to the vibe for today. We are exploring this concept of the human machine, but not in some cold, robotic way.
Right.
We're looking at it through a very specific and I think a very fascinating lens.
And just a quick vibe check before we launch. I am currently operating on about 4 cups of coffee today.
Uh-oh.
Which I have just learned might be a problem based on the text we're diving into. So if I seem a little jittery, you can blame the caffeine.
We will definitely get to the coffee. Trust me.
Okay.
Seth has opinions on the coffee.
I'm a little afraid of that, I have to admit. But let's set the scene first. Where are we traveling to today?
We are going back in time. So the date is September 6th, 1965.
Okay.
It's a Monday night Labor Day, actually.
So the summer is winding down, that classic early September feeling. I can feel that.
Exactly. We're in Elmira, New York. It's a quiet evening, and we are stepping into a small back room in the apartment of Jane Roberts and her husband, Robert Butts.
And for those who are new to this particular rabbit hole, Jane Roberts is the woman who channels the entity known as Seth.
Right.
And Robert, who is often referred to as Joseph in the sessions, he's the scribe. He's taking it all down.
Precisely. Today we are conducting a deep dive into session 185 of the early sessions, book 4 of the Seth material.
And just to keep everything above board, I do need to make a quick disclaimer here. This podcast is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We are here to learn, to explore, and, maybe have our minds blown a little bit. We are not doctors, and Seth is.
Well, Seth is a disembodied energy personality essence, so maybe take the medical advice as a fascinating historical and metaphysical exploration, not a prescription.
Always good advice. Definitely.
So what is our mission for this deep dive? Why did we pull this specific session out of, there are thousands of them.
There are. And the mission is, well, it's simple, but it's also kind of wild. We are looking for Seth's user manual.
User manual for the human body. For the human body, and by extension, for psychic ability, we're going to find out why your inner self is actually a much better doctor than you are.
And we are going to talk about diet, and yes, that includes the tragedy of my coffee situation.
And the even greater tragedy, I think, regarding fried foods.
Oh, don't remind me. Don't even start. And then finally, we're going to break down a blind test that is, honestly, it's one of the most chilling things I've read in a long time.
It is.
It involves a sealed envelope, a photograph, and a consciousness that is trying to see through paper.
And it is spooky accurate. It really, really challenges the way we think about perception.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Section 1, the self-correcting mechanism. So this session starts with Robert or Joseph, and he's dealing with some health issues, right?
That's right. It's Labor Day. They've had a bit of extra time because of the holiday. And Robert has been reading about healing earlier in the day. Yep. He's got this sinus condition. Hay fever is kicking in because it's September. And he's just wondering, do I have healing ability? Can I fix this?
And Seth, who, usually talks about dreams or the nature of reality or the multidimensional soul, he decides to pivot. He just says, okay, let's talk about your nose.
He does. He totally does. Yeah. And the way he defines healing is fascinating. He doesn't call it a miracle. He doesn't call it, divine intervention. He calls it a natural protective mechanism of inner origin.
I love that phrasing, inner origin. It implies you already have it. You didn't leave it at the dealership.
Exactly.
It's stock equipment.
It's stock equipment. Seth says this mechanism operates in everyone. It is self-correcting. Think about like a thermostat in a room.
Right.
When the room gets too hot, the AC kicks on. You don't have to stand there and tell the AC to kick on. The system just knows. Seth is saying the body is exactly like that. It constantly seeks equilibrium.
Okay, so if the system is self-correcting and the body knows how to heal itself,
Yeah.
why do we get sick? I mean, why was Robert sitting there sneezing his head off on Labor Day?
Well, this is where we meet the villain of the story.
Let me guess. It's us.
It's us. Specifically, the ego. Seth has this great quote. He says, "It is the ego, in many cases, who clogs the works," so to speak.
Clogs the works. I am picturing the ego as this, like, frantic middle manager
Yes.
who runs down to the factory floor and starts pulling levers and screaming at the workers, and then everything just grinds to a halt.
That is actually a perfect metaphor. The inner self, that's the extra factory crew. They know how to run the biological machine. They
Right.
breathe for you. They pump your blood. They knit your bones together. They handle all these complex enzymatic reactions you don't even think about.
Right.
But then the ego steps in, usually with fear or anxiety or just plain overthinking, and it just throws a wrench right in the gears.
And Seth, he mentions Robert's specific issues here, right? His sinuses and his eyesight.
Yes. Seth points out that generally Robert or Joseph, he does a good job of letting the system run. But in these specific areas, his conscious worrying or his, specific hangups are clogging the pipes.
So the mechanism wants to clear the sinuses, but the ego is holding on to the condition for some reason.
Exactly. It's almost like the ego wants to control the process, but it just doesn't have the qualifications.
It's like me trying to fix a nuclear reactor because I watched a YouTube video once.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
And because the ego is focused on the problem, the stuff he knows, the bad eyes, it reinforces the problem. It sends a message to the inner self, hey, we're sick down here. And the inner self just goes, okay, boss, we're sick.
And then Seth does something pretty cool. He doesn't just, lecture him about it. He performs a little, I don't know if I'd call it a party trick, but it's a demonstration.
It's a direct intervention, for sure. Robert is sitting there, sniffing, using tissues. And Seth says, essentially, we will now tell you, Joseph, that your head will be clear for the rest of this evening.
He just commands it, just like that.
He issues a suggestion, a direct suggestion. It's like he bypasses Robert's conscious, worrying ego and speaks directly to the inner self, to the factory floor.
Did it work?
Robert notes in the transcript that almost immediately it clears up. He says, and I'm paraphrasing, I was glad to hear this, whatever its source, I had certainly responded. It worked.
Wow. This raises such a massive question for me. I mean, how often do we think ourselves sick? Or maybe a better way to put it is, how often do we block ourselves from getting well?
Seth would argue, almost always. I mean, if the natural state of the machine is health and self-correction, then illness is often, not always, but often, a result of us interfering with that process.
We get in our own way.
We get in our own way. We hold on to stress, which then manifests physically. When we hold on to these narratives like, oh, I always get a cold in the winter or I have a bad back, the inner self hears that suggestion and just says, okay, if you say so.
That is terrifying. It's like the placebo effect, but in reverse, the nocebo effect.
Precisely. But the good news is, if you can clog the works, you can also unclog them. And that leads us to the next part of the session. Seth pivots from just, fixing a cold to something much, much bigger.
Right. He connects physical health directly to psychic ability. This is the psychic diet section. And honestly, this is where I felt personally attacked.
I had a feeling you would say that. I knew this was coming.
So Seth makes this claim that strengthening your physical health isn't just about feeling good or, living longer. It directly boosts things like clairvoyance, telepathy, and astral projection.
It makes a lot of sense if you think about it from an energy perspective. Seth views the human being as, well, an energy system.
The machine again.
Right. If your vehicle is sluggish and the engine is knocking because you put bad fuel in it, you can't drive it at high speeds. You can't go on those long road trips into consciousness.
But before he even gets to the food, to the fuel, he drops a prerequisite. It's not just about eating kale. There's a mental requirement first.
This is a crucial point. It really is. It often gets overlooked by people who are just looking for a diet plan from Seth. He says that before you can really unlock these abilities, you need a strong, positive, and definite desire to benefit the race of man.
To benefit the race of man. Wow, that is heavy. So it can't just be, I want to read my ex's mind to see if they miss me.
No, that's not going to cut it. And he specifies that it can't just be an intellectual idea. You can't just think, oh, sure, world peace is nice. It has to be emotional. You have to feel that connection to humanity.
It's like an ethical safety lock on the psychic gun.
That's a great way to put it.
You have to really care about people to unlock the higher functions.
Exactly. It aligns the inner self with the outer self. If your intentions are pure, the energy flows. If you're selfish or petty, you're just clogging the works again with negative resistance.
Okay, so assuming we have the desire to save the world, let's talk about the menu. Because Seth lays down some rules. And they are very specific.
They are, and I think we should break these down, bulletin list style, because they run so contrary to a lot of what was popular in the 60s, and honestly, some of it's still controversial now.
Let's do it. So, first one up, simpler meals.
Right. He just says, stop overcomplicating food. Right. In the 60s, you have to remember, cooking was becoming very, very processed.
Oh, yeah.
It was the era of Jell-O salads, heavy cream sauces, mixing 5 different things into a casserole.
The era of mystery loaf?
Exactly, mystery loaf.
Yeah.
Seth says to strip it all back. Enjoy the individual tastes. He wants the body to be able to identify and process what it's eating without having to decode a chemical puzzle first.
Makes sense. And then comes the hammer blow. The second rule, the one that hurts me deeply.
Oh, yes. Fried foods.
He says it's a big no. A very big no.
Quote, I would here suggest very few fried foods. You have too many of these.
I want to take a moment of silence for French fries. For fried chicken, for tempura, for donuts. Seth, why are you doing this to us? Why?
It's about energy density.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the physics of digestion. Fried foods are heavy. They're saturated with fats that require a massive amount of bile and enzymatic energy just to break down.
Okay.
When your body is spending all its resources breaking down heavy fats, that energy isn't available for the inner senses.
So if I want to be telepathic, I have to step away from the frying pan. Is that what you're telling me?
Theoretically, yes. He says the grease clogs the system. There's that plumbing metaphor again. It just makes the physical mechanism too heavy, too dense.
Fine. I'll take it under advisement. Reluctantly.
Okay.
What's the next rule?
The next one is frequency. Seth suggests that 3 heavy meals a day is actually not great for the system. He recommends small, frequent meals instead.
Which is funny because that's advice we hear from nutritionists all the time today. Keep the blood sugar stable. Don't go into a food coma after lunch.
Exactly. Again, it's all about what he calls mobility of focus. If you eat a massive Thanksgiving dinner, where is your consciousness? It's in your stomach. You want a nap.
Guilty.
You're not ready to astral project. You're barely ready to watch TV. By eating smaller amounts more often, you keep the fuel line steady without flooding the engine.
That is a very practical way to look at it. Okay, what about the source of the food? Fresh versus canned.
He's very clear on this. Fresh is best. Fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. Then frozen is okay, and canned is the last resort.
Which is, again, very 2020s advice for 1965. In 65, canned vegetables were the norm. That was modern convenience.
It was space-age food. But Seth is pushing for vitality. He implies that fresh food has more life energy, which then transfers to the body.
Okay, and then we get to the meat debate. Is Seth a vegetarian?
Well, this is nuanced. He says vegetarianism is, and this is his word, theoretically better.
Theoretically, what does that mean?
He admits that eating meat focuses the physical mechanism closely to the physical system.
Meaning it grounds you, makes you more physical.
Yes, it ties you to the earth cycle of life and death. It's a very dense energy. But he doesn't forbid it. He tells Jane and Robert that moderate meat is okay, just not fatty meat. He says he won't enforce vegetarianism on them yet.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that. That sounds ominous. Like, enjoy your burgers while you can, Robert.
He knows their limitations. He's pragmatic. He knows if he bans meat entirely, they might just quit the whole thing. He works with where they are.
Okay, now we have to talk about the stimulants, because this is where the personality of the session really shines through. Seth puts a hard cap on Jane's coffee consumption.
He does. 5 cups a day, maximum.
Okay, let's just unpack this for a second. If he has to set a limit of 5 cups, how many cups was she drinking before that?
I mean, we have to assume a pot or two. Jane Roberts was a writer. She worked from home. It was the 60s. The coffee pot was likely always on. It was her fuel.
5 cups is still a lot by modern standards. If I drank 5 cups, I would be vibrating through the walls. I wouldn't need astral projection. I'd just phase through matter on my own.
It just shows that Seth is pragmatic. He knows he can't tell her 0 cups. She'd rebel. She'd get a massive headache. So he sets a reasonable limit for her. But the goal is to reduce the jitter, the artificial stimulation.
And then there is the smoking.
Yes. We have to remember, Robert and Jane were smokers. Again, It was 1965. Everyone smoked. Doctors smoked in hospitals. You could smoke on airplanes.
It's true. It was a completely different world.
Seth suggests they cut down from 15 cigarettes a day to 10, and he calls it a nervous habit that diverts energies.
It's so interesting that he doesn't say it causes cancer. He doesn't go there. He says it diverts energies.
That is his entire focus. Everything is about energy management. If you are nervously reaching for a cigarette, you are leaking energy that could be used for healing or for psychic work. It's a distraction mechanism.
So the big takeaway from this whole psychic diet section is basically lighten up.
Yes.
Lighter food, less grease, less artificial stimulation.
Okay.
Keep the machine running clean so the driver, the consciousness, can actually see out the windshield clearly.
Perfectly put. That's exactly it. It allows for what Seth calls mobility of focus. You aren't being weighed down by your own biology.
Which brings us to section 3, practical magic. We've cleaned up the diet. Now Seth gives them a workout plan.
He does. And it's, again, very specific to the era, but also pretty timeless in its principles. He recommends isometric exercises.
Okay, explain that for the listeners who didn't grow up with those Charles Atlas ads in the back of comic books.
Isometrics are exercises where you push against an immovable object or you just push your hands against each other. You're tensing the muscle without actually moving the joint.
Right.
It was a huge craze in the 60s, but Seth really endorses it for them. It builds tension and then releases it, but without all the wear and tear of heavy lifting.
And he also mentions Eastern exercises.
Which is likely yoga or something similar. He says they should be done daily. He wants them to be limber. You know, a stiff body often leads to a stiff mind.
But my favorite part of this section, I think, is the walking. Because he doesn't just say, go for a walk to burn calories. He turns walking into this, like, psychedelic experience.
This is one of my favorite passages in the whole session. He tells them to take walks, but to use a very specific technique, he says. Attempt to feel yourselves a part of the environment, rather than feel yourselves as observers.
How do you even do that, practically? Because usually I am very much the observer. I'm here, the tree is there, we're separate.
Well, Seth is challenging that whole subject-object split.
Yeah.
Usually we walk around inside our heads, and we are looking at the world. We are separate from it. Seth is saying, try to merge with the scene.
Okay.
Feel that you and the tree and the sidewalk and the air are all just part of one continuous picture.
So be the tree.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
Be the tree. Feel the air moving in and out of your lungs. Realize that the air that's inside you was outside you just a second ago. There isn't really a hard boundary.
That is straight up mindfulness. That's active meditation before those terms were trendy.
It is. And he says, to combine this with deep breathing, it dissolves the barrier between the ego, which is the observer, and the world, which is the object. It's just another way to unclog the works. If you stop seeing yourself as separate from the world, you stop fighting it.
And finally, before we get to the big finale, he gives them a sleep technique.
This circles right back to the healing stuff from the beginning. He suggests that as you're falling asleep in that, floaty state.
Yeah, the hypnagogic state.
Right. You give yourself a suggestion. For example, my head will be clear tomorrow.
Why does that work better than just saying it when you're awake and walking around?
Because when you're asleep, the ego is offline. The micromanager has gone home for the night.
Right.
The inner self is working the night shift alone. So if you leave a note, a work order, for the inner self right before you clock out, it will get the job done without the ego standing there over its shoulder saying, it probably won't work though. Are you sure you're doing that right?
So you program the machine right before you shut down the user interface.
Exactly. And Seth even suggests Jane use this for Robert's sinus condition. He calls Jane a health-giving personality. He says she can suggest healing for him while he sleeps.
That is really sweet, actually. It shows how deep their connection was.
It is. It really shows that minds can influence other minds, especially when the conscious defenses are down.
Okay, so we've fixed the diet, we've done the yoga, we've walked as the tree, we've programmed our sleep. Now we have to test the system. This is section 4, the envelope test.
This is where the rubber meets the road. All this talk about inner senses and mobility of focus, does it actually work? Can they prove it?
Set the scene for us. What's happening?
Okay, so it's late in the session. Jane is deep in trance, channeling Seth. Her eyes are closed. She's either pacing or sitting, speaking in that specific, deeper voice she used.
And Robert is up to something. He's got a plan.
He's got a plan. Robert has prepared what he calls a double envelope. This means it's an envelope inside another envelope, so you absolutely cannot see through it, even if you hold it up to a bright light. It's totally opaque.
And inside?
Inside, he's placed a photograph.
And he didn't tell Jane about this beforehand?
Not a word. He found it earlier that day. It's an old black and white photo of his brother Bill, Bill's wife Ida, and their 2 kids. It was taken in Webster, New York, way back in 1959, and it's a winter scene.
So there's snow, coats, it's cold. Got it.
Right. So Robert waits until Jane is in the middle of speaking as Seth, and he just drops this sealed envelope into her lap.
While she's channeling.
While she is channeling, in deep trance.
Does she wake up? Does she flinch? What happens?
Nothing. Not at all. She, or rather Seth, just keeps talking. She doesn't even open her eyes. She just holds the envelope lightly in her hands.
And then
the data stream starts. But, and this is the most important part, it's not like she says, oh, this is a photo of your brother Bill in the snow.
Right, because that would be too easy. That's how fake psychics do it on TV.
Exactly. This is much more like raw data. It's like a computer reading code. Seth starts describing these visual impressions from the perspective of consciousness, not physical eyes. He says, I have an impression of a road or a tree. Parallel lines. Parallel lines, okay. That's a specific geometric shape. Keep going. He says, I have an impression of afternoon.
Wow, that's specific, not just daytime.
Right. Then he says, 3 people.
Okay, wait, hold on. You said there were 4 people in the photo, Bill, Ida, and their 2 kids.
Hold that thought. It's the key to the whole thing. He then mentions shadow shapes, or pyramid forms, right. And he mentions dirt color and a strong contrast of light and dark.
Okay, so just to recap the data, we have parallel lines, afternoon light, 3 people, pyramids, and high contrast.
Exactly. Now, here's where it gets truly fascinating. Seth actually stops the reading and explains the difference between what he is seeing and how Jane's brain is trying to translate it. This is a rare look into the mechanics of channeling. It's like looking at the back-end code of reality.
So Seth is sending this raw signal like a radio wave, and Jane is the receiver, the decoder.
Precisely. And the decoder has its own glitches. It has to rely on Jane's personal vocabulary and her memories and associations.
Okay, so let's break it down. The parallel lines, what was that?
Seth saw parallel lines. Jane's brain frantically searched its memory files for the label parallel lines, and she came up with school fence. She thought she was seeing a fence near her old house.
But what was it really in the picture?
The photo showed the side of a house with wooden clapboard siding.
Horizontal parallel line.
Exactly. So Seth saw the geometry correctly. Jane's brain just slapped the wrong label on it, fence. But the geometry itself was a direct hit.
Wow. Okay, what about the pyramid shapes?
Same thing. Jane's brain thought roof. She associated that shape with the roof of her old house, which cast a pyramid-shaped shadow.
But in the photo?
In the photo, because it was winter and the sun was low, there were long shadows on the snow. And they were triangular, pyramid shadows.
And the afternoon detail?
The long shadows confirmed it. That means the sun was low in the sky. Robert looks at the photo later and confirms, yes, it was definitely taken in the afternoon. So that's another direct hit based on the lighting conditions in the photo.
Okay, this is spooky, but now we have to address the 3 people mystery. This feels like the flaw. There were 4 people in the photo. Bill, Ida, and 2 kids. Seth said 3. Did he just miss 1?
This is the part that gave me chills when I read it. Seth explains that he saw 3 distinct, clear figures. But the 4th figure, the baby, it didn't come through clearly as a person.
Why not? What was wrong with the baby?
Robert gets the photo out and looks at it closely. The baby is wearing white. The baby is wrapped in a white blanket. And the baby's sitting on the mother's lap, kind of bundled up.
Okay.
The shape of the baby, all bundled in the blanket, formed a perfect triangular shape.
Yeah.
A pyramid.
No.
Yes. Seth saw the pyramid shape. He mentioned pyramid forms multiple times. He was seeing the baby, but because there was no contrast, a white blanket, maybe on white snow, or just the lighting, his perception saw the geometry of the baby, not the identity of the baby.
So he reported pyramid, and Jane's brain couldn't compute baby, so she just relayed the raw data. Pyramid.
Exactly. And don't forget, the shadows on the snow were also pyramids. So the data stream was totally accurate. I see 3 people and some pyramid shapes. And the reality was, there are 3 people and a baby shaped like a pyramid. standing amidst pyramid-shaped shadows.
That is absolutely mind-blowing. It's like he was looking at the wireframe of a video game level before the textures load in.
That is exactly what it is. Seth is perceiving the energy forms, the shapes, the raw visual data. Jane is trying to turn that abstract data into English words. The errors aren't in the seeing, they're in the translation.
It validates the whole process in this really weird, backward way. If she had just guessed, oh, it's your brother Bill and Ida, you could maybe write that off as a lucky guess or a hint. But describing the specific geometry of a baby wrapped in a blanket as a pyramid while holding a sealed envelope, that's not a guess, that's data.
And the fact that she was totally dissociated the whole time. Her conscious mind had no idea what was happening. It just challenges your entire worldview. It really does. It suggests that the inner self can literally see through matter.
So bringing it all together, we started with don't eat fried foods, and we ended with I can see the geometry of a baby through a sealed envelope.
It seems like a huge jump, but it's the same thread running through the whole session.
It's all the same machine.
It is the inner self. The same mechanism that knows how to heal your sinus infection without your ego's clumsy help is the same mechanism that can perceive information through an envelope without needing your physical eyes.
It's all just about getting the clogs out of the way, whether that clog is a French fry, a stressful thought, or the baked-in belief that says, I can't see through paper.
Precisely. If you clean up the biological machine, the diet, the exercise, the sleep, and you clean up the mental machine by removing the ego's doubts and fears, the system just works. It does miraculous things naturally because it's actually designed to do them.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Seth said this back in 1965. He said, and I'm quoting here, "The identity of the material must change and grow if it will endure."
That is a very provocative thought to end on. If this material from 1965 was the seed, what is the grown version supposed to look like in our lives today?
Are we still running on the 1965 operating system? Or have we upgraded? Are we still clogging the works of our own evolution with all our modern anxieties and distractions?
I think we have to tackle the clogs one French fry at a time, or maybe one less Instagram scroll at a time.
One less cup of coffee at a time. But let's not get crazy.
Let's not go too far. The system might crash.
Well, this has been an absolute trip. I want to give a massive, massive shout out to the source of this mind-bending information. This deep dive was based on the Seth material, specifically the early sessions, Book 4.
And we have to thank the publisher, New Awareness Network. They are the ones keeping this incredible archive alive and available.
If you found this even half as fascinating as we did, please do not just take our word for it. We strongly, strongly encourage you to study the Seth material books directly. There is so much more in there that we just couldn't cover. We are just scratching the surface of one single session out of hundreds.
You can find them at the New Awareness Network website and bookstore. The address is sethsitter.com for the early sessions.
Go check it out. Read the manual for your own human machine. And hey, maybe try the envelope test, but maybe skip the fried chicken first.
That's Zach. Good advice. Sound advice.
Thanks for diving in with us. We will see you next time.
Stay curious.